The opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the participants and do not reflect the opinions or beliefs of Marshall University, Marshall University Libraries, the Department of English, the College of Liberal Arts, Marshall University Film Studies, or HerdCon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the newest episode and the newest season of HerdCon's Book Chats. I'm Cody Lumpkin.
I'm Meghan Sexton Harness.
And this season, we wanted to try to do something, hopefully, for two reasons. For sanity reasons, because we try to read as many books as possible. And just for really kind of, if people are interested in getting into reading again, it might be helpful if they read maybe something to start with short books and things like that. So we were wanting to pick books that you could read in, a day or so, or a couple of days, or less than a week. And that's great for us too. So we can read more books. They're just going to be shorter. And so we're going to start interesting love today. We're going to start with, I guess, would it be best be called interactive narratives or interactive fiction?
Yeah.
Be the technical term. Not there's a particular company associated with it. A particular publisher. Choose your own adventure, and this is a interactive homage variation of that, much more adult, called Camp Meltaway. And we're very fortunate today to have the authors of Deadly Choices, Will You Survive? Camp Meltaway, Caitlyn Pace and Tiffany Pace. And we'd like to do their bios right before we start to talk to them and talk about their lovely and bloody book.
All right. So Caitlyn Pace is a horror and dark fiction writer from West Virginia. She's been published across multiple horror media platforms, such as Chilling Tales for Dark Nights, The Literary Hatchet, Commuter Lit, Dissections Magazine, Dark Horse, and Grim and Gilded Magazine. Her collection of short horror stories from West Virginia, Mumblings, as well as her Kindle Vella series, Mel, and her novel with her mom, Deadly Choices, Will You Survive? Camp Meltaway, were published through Henlow Press. She currently has a horror novel, Down to the Devil's Rock, out on submission. She's expected to publish the second Deadly Choices this year, alongside her mom and the Henlow Press. Right now, she's working on dark academia, college horror novels, and a collection of short stories when she's not writing. Caitlyn can be found watching a horror movie while crocheting one of her mini blankets and sweaters.
And Tiffany Pace is a STEM teacher at Cross Lanes Elementary in Charleston, West Virginia. She has been recognized multiple times for her outstanding excellence in teaching. She's also an executive board liaison for the West Virginia Teachers Association as the Elementary Science Ambassador Representative and as a presenter at their yearly conferences. For her district, she is a member of the Global Diversity Collaborative and a virtual curriculum designer. She has also written and received over $1 million in grants for her district. That is most impressive. Both of y'all keep very busy, it seems.
Yes.
So I was kind of interesting, and kind of the opening question to kind of think about for us all as kind of readers, but also you are creators of these kind of creator of these kind of choose your own adventure interactive narratives. So what kind of drew you to that particular type of storytelling for Camp Meltaway?
Yeah. So I originally just was thinking about when I watch horror movies, and I always say, don't go in there, don't go up the stairs, stuff like that. And I just texted Mom one day, and I was like, there should be a book where you can actually make those choices, like a scary novel where you can actually choose if you want to go up the stairs or if you want to go in the door. And Mom was like, let's write a book. Like, that's our opportunity. And we would just talk about it nonstop after that.
And what about you, Tiffany?
Oh, definitely. So we love to watch horror movies. I was one of those parents that let my daughters watch horror movies way too young. But you're always screaming at the TV and you just say, what a stupid choice they made. So now you get to find out if the choices that you're yelling at the screen is actually going to help you survive. So that's why we did it. It's just been so much fun writing it together.
Hmm. And so I guess what is your kind of, obviously the horror, but also the interactive narrative where you I always think it's like a free will determinism thing going on with these kind of with these kind of narratives. But was your kind of interest in those, and that, obviously what interests you about that type of storytelling?
Yeah. So I've really noticed that in my generation specifically, not to stereotype anybody, but it can be kind of hard to get younger people to focus on longer works. And we also wanted to just make something that's accessible. When we go to a lot of writing events, there's so many people who will come up to our table and will say, "Oh, we love supporting local artists and businesses, but I've just never been able to sit through and read a book." And we can just pull out this book and say, "Well, this is very friendly for that if you want to try it." And they always get so excited. So it's really cool to offer the literary experience to everybody because I feel like everybody should be able to enjoy it, but we need to make the accessible pathways for that to happen.
Hmm.
Absolutely. And as a teacher, I use the Choose Your Adventures in my own classroom just to entice younger students to start reading. They even have stuff like Choose Your Own History. So when I was teaching different parts of history, the students could step into the role of someone on the Underground Railroad or an immigrant coming into the United States. So I love that aspect that you can step into a character and make choices for that character and see where they develop. And I also love that we've had people say that they love to read the book during dinner parties. And then people say different choices that they make. So that's been a lot of fun, just hearing the stories of how people are reading the book together.
I think I'm of the age when these first books came. I was like alive when the first ones came out, which I believe is Edward Packard's The Cave of Time was the first one. It's not even listed. And fun fact, he is the grandfather of David Cornsweet, who is the new Superman in the new Superman movie.
Oh, wow.
And he's been a lawyer, and he's been kind of a children's author, writing a lot of these, and also R.A. Montgomery. And I believe he was a lawyer, and I believe he is still alive. So
Oh my goodness.
he's like in his 90s. But yeah, it was the teacher would read them to us. And I just remember one day, it's like, I have this new type of story for you all. And I don't remember much about which ones we read, but I remember it was very easy to be like, I'm going to pay attention because she's going to ask a student in the class, what would you do? And you don't want to be caught flat-footed. So it was something, I think there's very much, not only is it kind of interactive, but I think it works best when it's in a kind of collaborative format where like a teacher's reading to students, or it's a kind of party game or something like that. I think that's naturally lends itself to that. I do think it's for me, at least, reading any of these books, it's because I want to be a completist. It's kind of maddening. Like, how do I get to this point? I want to get it all done, and you keep going around, and it gets a little manic reading it, where I think its natural state is to kind of follow a thread and see where it goes, and everybody's with you.
I'm also a completionist, so I was even like taking notes about which paths I had already been down and like which pages went to what, so I could kind of work through it and make sure I wasn't missing any details.
You sound like us when we were editing.
Yeah. And it's real. I looked at some of the newer editions of Choose Your. They have this convenient. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they have this convenient chart, which I feel is cheating. But it doesn't tell you where the flow is, but you can just kind of get a sense of what you've covered that way. And where back in the days there was nothing you could do. You're at the whims of where you turn to the pages. So it's easier now to do it. So.
I'm not sure if you all are familiar with visual novels. They're kind of like choose your own adventure games, but on your computer. And I feel like that's kind of like a more tech, but still in the same like choose your own adventure. And it's still making like what you said, those readings still accessible to people. They are still reading and getting to know them. And I just didn't know if you guys had heard about visual novels, or might be something you'd be interested in formatting your book into.
Yes.
I love that idea.
That'd be so cool. I've never heard of them.
No, I'll definitely be Googling it since we finish.
My favorite is called Seven Kingdoms Princess Problems. There are so many options.
I think we have 70 some options in our book, right?
Yeah.
Is that right, Caitlyn?
That's a lot. I was also thinking like maybe it's just family in general. Y'all seem to really get along. So from just my initial meeting of y'all, and I was just kind of curious as to how you decide, like, obviously like wanting to work together, but actually working together and being related and family. And, I don't know, I would just feel any family member I'd be working on any sort of creative collaborative project, I would just butt heads with all the time. And so how do y'all manage it?
Yeah, I feel like, oh, go ahead.
You go first. You go first. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I just feel like we work really well together, which is kind of a blessing, for lack of a better word, with family. But I think that we really understand each other's boundaries and we just communicate really well. So, and that's big with any type of professional thing. Just saying, like, hey, like, I'm not in a creative mood. If you are in a creative mood, you can write down some ideas and I'll get back to them later, and vice versa. And that's really helped us out. And then we would also just talk about it when we were naturally together. So, like in car rides, on vacation, stuff like that.
And then we also each kind of write 2 characters in the book, and then we write some together. And then that way we can let our personalities come out in those characters and kind of have a separate creative space to try new things.
Can you tell us which characters you each focused on in the book?
Yeah. So I wrote Stacy and Rob, and then we both wrote Jessica.
And I wrote Doug and Eli, right?
Mhm.
Doug's my favorite. I love Doug. Doug's kind of like goofy like I am.
He definitely had a couple of twists that I did not see coming.
He's very layered if you make it to that choice.
Yes.
Yeah, it made me think of, I think what was, I guess, a lot. I mean, obviously I just was kind of thinking like this is like a more adult version of this, obviously. But I almost feel like it was kind of like you were talking about how watching horror movies at a young age, and that I guess children, like young readers, they tend to want to read ahead. So is it natural for kids of a certain age, they want to get into horror, and so they start reading horror stories, even though there's obviously something for adults to enjoy about it. They enjoy slasher stories and things like that.
I think it definitely could be accessible to teenagers and preteens. But because of the adult content, we only market it as 18 plus. But I mean, hey, I'm not good at fighting, but if they want to pick it up, but I would say we've had some little kids who are interested in it, and we've like little ones in elementary school and younger, and we're like, no, when you're older, you can pick that up, but not right now.
But that just makes them want to read it all more.
Exactly.
And you're saying reading ahead. I'm one of those people, like on the choices, when I'm trying to decide which choice to take, I kind of flip ahead to see which one's the worst choice, so that way I can choose the other one.
I see.
I'm mad about that. Or if you die, be like, oh no, I really didn't want that choice. I'm going to do a different one.
Yeah, I always think when you die, it's like, okay, I gotta go back. I gotta go back. It's like a dead end, and you're like, it's something else. So I can't remember when I was reading these kind of books, and I didn't read that many, but I think I remember I always felt like there was some point where a character's hungry and eating mushrooms are an option. I've probably imagined this, but it's like, yeah, you just want to end the story, just have them eat the mushrooms. They're gonna die.
That's how I felt when they found a random joint
Yeah.
just laying there. I was like, what? Please don't smoke that. Don't smoke random drugs you find.
Yeah.
Especially if you already have your own.
Yeah, there's a whole there is a version of Doug and Eli that feels like a Tweedledee, a Tweedledum, a Beavis and Butthead to them. Like I think one's a little smarter than the other, but they're just, how can they be so dumb?
Yes.
But then you can make them into something that they're not as dumb.
It was fun. It was definitely fun. And then like when I was writing, I imagine people I've grown up with, and kind of you merge some of the things, your past memories into it. And I'm not going to say who I wrote about.
Sure. I understand. With any similarities to people living here dead is pure coincidence. Yeah.
Yeah.
So while we're kind of on craft questions, I also like to do some creative writing, but the idea of writing this choose your own adventure seems so big and overwhelming, like having to come up with all the different plot lines or the way they interconnect. How did you all go about connecting them, or just not getting frustrated in putting the book actually together?
Yeah. So it's a process, definitely. The first one we did it all by hand. So we brainstormed on a big poster board and then like literally drew circles around the ideas and connected them that way. And it ended up working out that way, but it ultimately was a big mess because like when we went back to editing, especially with our publishers, it was not working out. So for this one, we used a free platform called Miro, and it's like an online thing. And you can basically do the same thing where you create ideas and then you connect them from there, or the second one, I should say, that we're working on. And that has helped tremendously keep things organized. But, just take it one step at a time and never give up. Just keep persisting.
I was curious. I was curious about what is there any design? It's one of the things. Maybe I'll do it. I'll just try to read one of these books straight through just to see what happens. Uh, but is there any logic or organization to where you put
No.
the threads, so to speak?
No. Not
No.
really. We just had the beginning, right? We just wanted the introduction, and then from there.
Mhm.
And then we wanted them all to connect at some point and then spread off from there. And then some of them have continuing storylines, while others are just more reflective of slasher tropes. So, which kind of does give more of a disjointed feel to it, but we want to pay homage to those slashers too.
Yeah.
I did love getting to certain parts and being like, oh, I could choose a different character right here. I can just change the plot line right here.
Yes, I'm
We just
glad.
want to be fun. I don't know. Like, I'm one of those really hyper ADHD people. So I'm like, oh, we'll do this one now. We'll do this one.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I was really interested with was the ways I would say like, okay, so it's a slasher film. I mean, it's a slasher story. So people are going to die. And, and I appreciated, it feels like like a lot of slashing, a lot of puncturing. But it all felt like each one felt, uh, it was like expected. Yeah, they bleed out, all this gory stuff. Good times. I enjoy it, but it was all like different. It felt different. The impacts, the sad realization of the characters that life is seeping away from them. And I was just wondering, like, how did you all think, and how did you order? Like, okay, we have to kill these people multiple times, but we can't kill them all in the same way, or we can't write it the same way. And how did you try to vary? I mean, that's the fun thing about a slasher is all the different ways people are going to die, and the interesting ways that they die. And so, how did you all try to differentiate that in this particular story?
We did talk about it a lot. And then we would read the different ways we were killing people and then help each other make it more detailed. And I have a funny story with that because we would research what would happen if you got stabbed or if you're stabbed with an arrow. So I was using my computer for work, and my principal actually contacted me and was like, hey, are you working on your book? And I'm like, yeah, how did you know? She's like, you were flagged for all the stuff that you're looking up. So yeah, lots of research on ways people die.
Do you ever Google first, FBI, I'm writing a book. This is research. I'm not planning.
I should.
Well,
But yeah, it's really interesting because like sometimes like when you watch a lot of movies, you just assume that's how people die. But a lot of things like I found when we were researching, that's not really the truth. Like people wouldn't really die that way, or you would have to add something to it, or just a variety of it. Like when you get bit by a snake and different things.
Yeah. Yeah, the snake. I feel like the snake is always, it feels like very traditional, like somebody's going to get bit by a snake in one of these stories. Nobody ate the evil, but yeah, the evil mushrooms being basically the laced joint. So yeah, I feel like, yeah, I guess kind of like honoring the tropes, but also trying something different with them. So
Yeah, that was definitely our goal.
Be right back.
So you already kind of brought up a little bit that there are some characters who may or may not be based in your own experiences. Was summer camp one of those experiences? And if so, what part of those summer camp experiences bled into writing?
Definitely. So I only got to go to one summer camp. I'm type 1 diabetic, so I got to go to a type 1 diabetic summer camp called Camp No Como, and it was very wholesome, very like child friendly. But we went swimming a lot, so that kind of did inspire the swimming scene. We did not go skinny dipping, so I'll worry for that. And I always really looked up to the camp counselors. I mean, I was a kid, but they were also type 1 diabetic and teaching me how to manage my condition better. So they were kind of like role models, and I kind of wanted to bring the dichotomy of a flawed character with somebody who still has traits that you might or might not be able to look up to within this book. And Mom went to a lot of summer
I
camps.
did. I went to a lot of camps. I went to forestry camp, so that's where hatchets come in. I went to conservation camps, and we did use bows and arrows. And that cheerleading camp, church camp, I may or may not have gotten kicked out of one of those. But so lots of camp experiences for me to help write the book.
yeah, I was reading when I was reading the book, I couldn't help but there were. I mean, it sounds like y'all had some wonderful camp experiences, but I can't help but notice the class commentary in the book is that you have Jessica / Charity, who is her mom works there, and that's how she got to go to the camp, and everybody else seems to be in a very privileged situation, and that she's and that it's her poor mom that gets injured, and then this camp is happy to give an underprivileged, an economically less child in a less economically situation to get a free ride at the camp. But the second you need to like give medical attention and some sort of recompense and restitution, like the lawyers come, we've got to protect their kids, and it just seems so I'm very like, yeah, Jessica, it's okay if you kill those kids. Go ahead.
Okay, go for it. So I will admit, growing up, I grew up in extreme poverty, and I was at times homeless. So I really connected with Jessica on that, and Caitlyn and I talked a lot about that. But then we also get really tired about how stories of people who have gone through things and how they kind of basically, for lack of a better term, get screwed over by the politics and stuff. So we kind of wanted to add that just to it, so that way, like, Jessica's doing horrible things, but then you're kind of justifying it as she does it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and the great thing about slashers is if it's good, you don't really care if the people die. You're kind of rooting for that. We wanted to add that element into our book.
I'm not going to name who because I don't want to get into spoilers, but there is a character in the book that's given the option to join the killer or not. And I really thought that with the class commentary, it really added to that because this character was involved and wasn't involved. So it definitely made Jessica, even though she's doing this really horrible act, it almost made her seem a little more sensible, like she isn't just out to murder people.
Absolutely. We want to add a little twist to it.
And I think one of the things I guess there's kind of two ways to go about this kind of interactive narrative is to have kind of what I think of like is kind of closed system, like everything it's like everything that's going to happen is going to happen and there's no wiggle room, or this more kind of flexible fluid one where the reality changes with the choices that you make. Like someone is helping someone that we thought is dead is not dead. And I think that's a more interesting and unpredictable way to tell it. Was there like a thought process of like how close you wanted to be, is like everything has to make sense or everything depends on the choices that the reader makes?
I think it depended more on the choices, but I think ultimately we just really looked at slasher tropes and stereotypes, and we just wanted to try to make our like put our own twist on those. So like, I mean, you can watch so many slashers, and in the sequel, somebody who died came back, and they don't always follow a set storyline. And I know we got some criticisms about that, but ultimately, I'm kind of happy with that decision. I feel like we paid our own homage to that.
And it was fun too, because we would just have an idea, like with the twist, and be like, oh my gosh, I had this idea, let's do this. And we would text back and forth and then call each other and stuff and work on it.
While we're getting into more details, I loved your use of the term lady killer, because we normally think of a lady killer as a man who's really popular with the ladies. But here we're not so much talking about a man at all. We're giving her, I guess, more agency and power in that term instead of making her the object.
Yes. Yes. And it was like so much fun to have a female serial killer, because that's not that much represented in any type of media, but including slashers. And women make good serial killers. They think things out, they can be more manipulative, and it's just kind of fun to do that. But we also made the woman serial killer to pay tribute to the first Friday the 13th movie.
Lest we forget Pamela Voorhees.
Yes, you gotta put in that slasher somewhere, regardless of how you feel about it.
If Casey Beckett would have paid attention, maybe she would have survived Scream.
Yes.
I think too with like you going back to Friday the 13th and the first Friday the 13th, which is still probably the best one. It was just the mother seeking revenge for the death of her son and honoring him, and it's kind of a reversal in this story where the murderer is honoring the killer is honoring the mother, and
Yes.
all that. And this was like a good mother that worked hard,
Yes.
and like was like, hey, I warned you guys, get away while I'm doing my work. I just
Yeah. And also dealing with the medical complexities of a condition, not to spoil anything, that happened where the mother was able to work and provide, and then suddenly that job was on the daughter, and she had to grow up too fast. And I feel like in some ways she's kind of dealing with her traumas by seeking revenge, and which can get into a whole other conversation about mental health care in Appalachia, since the story takes place in Appalachia.
I mean, yeah, and you have a company and middle upper class people looking down on working class people and taking advantage of them, and broken bodies. Oh, yeah, y'all wrote this. I'm sure you know what you're talking about.
But I'm so glad that you guys are picking up on this.
Yes.
When you write it, sometimes you don't know if people are going to pick up on what you intended to put down. So it's really rewarding to hear that you guys picked up on all the themes and that you really enjoyed it.
We try. We enjoy reading.
It's true. So I maybe think this is a good time to bring it up, since you naturally brought up mental health care in Appalachia. Do you want to tell us about your next Choose Your Own Adventure scare book?
Yeah. So the next one takes place at an abandoned insane asylum, and it's all focused on how mental health care has made a lot of progress, but we still need more progress to be made, and how these people who were experiencing mental health disorders were seen as monsters when they were actually human. So we want to focus on that human aspect for the patients, and the monster aspect on the people who believe they needed to fix them rather than help them. And that was our goal with writing it. And I'm super excited. I can't wait to share it with everybody. And we included some little like new modern mental health ideas in there. Speaking of mushrooms, that's a little
The mushrooms are there.
yes.
But we also we love visiting places that are historical, like our Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, and just learning and reading how people were admitted. We all could be in that same place. I mean, we've all gone through things. And I think when we step back and realize we could be one of those people and not judge, that's kind of like what we're looking at through that book. but in a horror way, horror slasher. Woo, yeah.
So you mentioned, you brought it up. So I assume that you've been to Trans-Allegheny. Did you see any ghosts there?
We saw some weird things. Remember when the wheelchair moved?
Yes, a wheelchair followed us. I remember the first time that we went, we were walking on different stairways. So it was kind of hard to keep track of which floor you were on. And because you go to like the third floor and then the first floor and just keep on moving back and forth. And I walked down one hallway and I felt so sad. Like I just felt like there was this cloud over me. I couldn't move. I couldn't really hear anything. And one of our friends was with us and she kept on saying, Caitlyn, Caitlyn. And I didn't even know she was saying anything until like the fifth time she'd said something. And then after we got out of there, or right before we were about to get out, the tour guide said that that was where they kept all their depressed patients. And this was right before I became a teenager and all of the things that came with that. So I was this happy-go-lucky kid and then teenagerhood, which is rough for anybody.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting. And then also our friend's camera completely died. Its battery was gone because it was one of those like digital cameras. The battery was completely dead and she was so disappointed because she wanted to take pictures and she had charged it before the night before we went. And then as soon as we pulled out that parking lot, leaving it, the battery was at 100%.
Weird.
The whole thing was dead then.
Yeah. Well, I think too, I think when I look at seeing like the list of these types of books, I think the thing that's interesting is the setting, and often they're set in a particular place. I bought my wife one that was about the Titanic, surviving the Titanic or something, because she's a big story of the Titanic fan, just the history. And it is, I think it's interesting that to set something in a particular place and see what happens, and I think also things that deal with like history or biographical historical figures that places things in a time and a place that you can spend time in through words.
So,
Yeah.
absolutely. We love that. And so ours usually take place within 24 hours. So that way you're there, it all happens, and then you can see where it goes from there.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I was pretty shocked that there actually was a summer camp getting ready to start. When I got to that part, I was like, oh, you mean she didn't lie just to get them here? That she's actually on this tight time limit?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that. That was one of the things I noted is that I like the tight. It's kind of like a stage drama. You've got a limited number of characters, a limited number of space. It follows the Aristotle's unity's place, time, setting, problem. It all happens in a day. So everything's nice and neat and in a neat little package, even though it's like a bunch of messy, all these different endings and changes and things like that. But I think that's where you get a lot of nice structure in it. So there's that stability where the mayhem can happen.
Yes.
Let's face it, camps in the woods are kind of freaky. I went to a writing camp when I was growing up in Beckley, and I just remember having to walk out of my cabin to go to the bathroom where the back cabin was, and it was just freaky. So like just being in the woods alone, I think is kind of a scary setting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think like the places in characters in places, like I think there's obviously like primal, the vulnerability. You're in the bathroom, you're in the water, you're running through the woods with no idea what's in front of you. You're hiking and you don't have the right proper shoes. These are all like, to me, like really like, oh, these are like fundamental fears that like primal lizard brain fears that
Absolutely.
people have.
Definitely.
It's the making of good horror. So.
And now you have the added technophobia of I don't have cell phone service.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. We're all reliable on that. I mean, like we just want our phones and we want to have like that instant access.
Yeah, it always feels like it's a tough thing to try how to write a story where people have cell phones where they can check something immediately if they have a question, which is great. But yeah, it can kind of hinder narrative. It hinders like thousands of years of narrative.
Yes.
I think. So I understand if people want to get around that. And it's like the cell service doesn't work here.
Yes.
So
Do you have any other questions before our couple final?
now I think we can. You want to move to the final question?
Sure. I know Tiffany needs to go soon. So
Yeah. So
Sorry.
I just wanted to kind of ask kind of a wrap up question for everybody. And again, thanks so much for taking time out of your day to talk to us. But I was kind of thinking like, there are so many of these books. And I was just wondering and curious if there was any type of interactive narrative scenario that each of us had that we would want to read. Not that we would want to write, but why we would want to read in some way that might be interesting to us individually.
That's a good question.
I like that. I like traveling. So
Mhm.
I would like to read where someone went to a new place and there were different choices, like what they're visiting, what they're eating, who they're meeting, and different stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I would like
Also-
to. Oh, go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
go ahead,
Go
Caitlin.
ahead.
You're the guest.
I would like to see if I could like survive a zombie apocalypse, but from the safety of my book.
Mm-hmm.
You are a girl after my own heart because that was exactly what I was going to say.
Oh, really? Because it's
I was
terrible.
thinking about zombie walks. Like, I don't want to be one of the zombies in the zombie walk. I want to be one of the survivors in the zombie walk. So yeah, getting bit by a zombie and dying, it just doesn't appeal to me. But yeah, that's fundamental. Something bites you and you become that thing. That's a deep horror.
So, Dr. Lumpkin, you want to tell us which
Oh
interactive
yeah,
story you
I
have?
wrote the question, so I would want it to be really postmodern and absurd. I would want it to be something like college. And so you make choices and it leads to the like, okay, so you decide to go to the party or you decide to stay home and study or you decide to go to study hall, but there you meet someone who becomes your drinking buddy for the next 4 years, or you drop a class and when you go to the you find someone that you fall in love with and marry. So this kind of like I wanted to do like it would be something really random and
That's
like just the randomness of like, oh, I'll go study in the library and there I find a long lost brother or something like that. So I
Yes.
just think about like the randomness and chaos. I don't want to write this. I want someone to write it for me so I can read it.
That's
Sounds
awesome.
amazing.
And then I think that my final wrap up question is there are, I think, 5 characters in the book that you can play. Which one do you all suggest for someone to play first?
I have to go with Doug. That way, because he's kind of fun. And if you only have a little bit of time, his are kind of short because his brain's a little short. So it's definitely easier.
Yes, Doug is definitely a good one. If you want more control, I would say Jessica. But I like Stacy. She was kind of like our final girl trope, even though she doesn't survive in all of the choices. I liked playing around with that trope because that's so much fun. So I liked writing her. But yeah, if you want a lot more control, I would go with Jessica.
If anything, I think making your final girl killable makes her more realistic and more final girl. She's not destined by fate to survive these encounters.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do like it, particularly now in certain scenarios where clearly there's a lot of trauma to deal with for this final girl. I think, which is very much in the tradition of final girls in slasher films. I gotta say, I'm maybe it's this like I want to do the easy task first, so I lean toward Rob because I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
I'll get him out of the way and I'll save it. I save myself for who I thought the more interesting characters were, and I think that was kind of like little rewards and then big rewards as far as my reading thoughts are.
I played Eli first because I'm a glutton and he was the one going to eat.
It's like chaos, mayhem, blood, and nachos. This is what it's all about.
Yes.
All right. Would either of you have any final words to our viewers?
Keep killing it. You guys are doing amazing. We love your support. Thank you.
Absolutely. And we can't wait to be on here and tell you about our next one when it comes out.
All right.
Thank you guys for having us.
Thank
Of
you.
course, thank you.
I'm looking forward to that next book. So take care.
When is it set to come out real quick?
Oh, we don't know yet. Hopefully soon. We'll
We're
see.
being processed right now, just like finishing things up.
All right. Well, we'll keep our eye out on it and let our viewers know when we do hear something and when it's coming.
I'm gonna make a bet it's gonna come out before the Winds of Winter, so we're good. So that's fine.
Hopefully.
Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you.
Take care.
you.